As you're sitting on your hard surface, the floor, table, bench, whatever the case may be, close your eyes for a second. And I want you to tune into where your breath is moving. So we usually do this on our back, right? We're lying on our backs and we feel where the breath is moving through our body. So this is a different relationship to gravity, and it's a little bit trickier, in my opinion. And have one of your rollout balls handy. So as we sit here, taking a few minutes to breathe into our butts. You might notice kind of off the top that your breath is maybe up here. Or maybe you feel that it's here. Neither of those places are wrong, but I don't want it to be all here or here. See if you can shift your attention of your inhale to your sitting bones, that when we inhale, the sitting bones are going to expand, and also your sacrum. So if you want to put your hand on your back, that might be helpful, like right at the top of your butt crack, that the sacrum is breathing wide and then relaxing into some slack. So the whole pelvis is going this way and that way, and then relaxing. I really like the jellyfish image. And we're going to have to let go of any holding in the front of our bellies, which culturally we're taught to really like hold our tummies in. So sometimes I think that I've let it go and I haven't really let it go yet. So maybe bringing fingers like just above your pubic bone and feeling the breath moving a little lower than you think. I'm going to take 2 more breaths here. And then when you feel ready, you're going to grab your ball. Maybe you have a sense of one butt feeling tighter or one hip feeling tighter. Generally speaking, we spend more time on the first side. So pick your poison, and you're going to place your ball in the fleshy space between your sitting bone on that side and your butthole, just to be clear about it. So there's some space in there. This is your posterior pelvic floor. When we do butt grabbing or clenching our butthole, it gets real tight and it doesn't allow for breath movement. So we're going to stick it there. So I'm finding the bone of my sitting bone, and then I'm going to slide it just past my sitting bone. And there's a little fleshy space in there. And for me on this right side, I feel the tautness of those fibers. And then you're just going to breathe. And if it's possible, Lee, uncrisscross your legs and bring your feet to the mat. Yeah. So when you're in external rotation like that, those fibers are going to be short. And what we're going to do is we're going to move the legs in a minute. So take a second here to settle into your butt. And if the first spot you found is too interesting or not interesting enough, you can get creative about where the ball goes. There's no hard and fast rule. Generally, we're just looking for somewhere in that space in the posterior pelvic floor. So the sitting bone and then in just a little bit And then you're going to breathe. And we're going to come back to that imagery we were just using a minute ago. And like, I don't know if you noticed, but I shifted way forward. So I'm going to shift my ribs back again. And I'm trying to stack my ribs over my pelvis and find that jellyfish breath. The sitting bones widen, the back side widens. And then as we exhale, it just softens. It really just goes into slack because I'm not doing an active pull. We're just playing with getting some space and then relaxing around it. Now, it might be for you in this moment that this is enough. Just breathing into your pelvic floor. If you would like to add on, we're going to take the feet a little wider than the knees and the hips, and we're going to allow those knees to drop together. So now the femurs are in internal rotation, which means the muscles that we're anchoring with the ball are being pulled a little wider. And then when we drop the knees out to the side, we go back into some slack or some shortness. So you can play with internal and external rotation if that is interesting to you. And I'm just going to keep doing this with my hand because I don't know, it's helpful, maybe. Little and little. And breathing. Big breath in. And big breath out. And depending on how hard the surface you're sitting on is, right, is going to change how this feels. Little rotation. Little rotation. One more. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then pause. Let your legs come back to neutral-ish. Take another breath here. Just notice how the quality has changed. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's better or worse, but just that it may have shifted a little. And then again, I like to get chesty in my breathing. So I'm going to pull back and I'm going to really think about expanding front and back, side and side. Last one, inhale. Exhale. And then we're going to take that ball out of that side and just come to sit with nothing underneath your butt for a minute. And you're going to come back to the breath. Breathing, breathing. Maybe play with the rotation and just see what that got you. Big inhale, big exhale. And then one more, just coming to that breath. When you feel ready, other butt. So I'm going to find my sitting bone. And then I'm going to just slide a little bit to the inside. And this side feels totally freaking different, at least for me. So then taking a minute here to just breathe. And again, maybe checking in with that back of the skull, the back of the ribs, the back of the sacrum alignment, and see how that changes versus if you're me, being a little chesty with it. Put your hands wherever you need to on your body to help you feel just where your breath wants to go and see if you can shift it into those places where it's a little trickier. And how does that affect the quality of the sensation of the ball in your butt? And I'm doing that flutter exhale because that relaxes the pelvic floor. If your jaw is relaxed, your diaphragm relaxes, your pelvic floor relax. So if you want to play with that fluttering breath, by all means. When you feel ready, you can take your feet a little wider and let your knees drop together and let your knees drop apart. And again, just noticing how the quality changes. Maybe this is helpful, maybe it isn't helpful. Maybe you just want to stay with the breathing, right? You have options. Big breath in, big breath out. Last one. Big inhale, big exhale. And then maybe there's a rotation of the femurs that's interesting to you. And stay there for like 3 breaths. So I'm going to keep internal rotation. And then whenever you feel ready, you can let that go. Come to neutral. One more breath here. And then take that ball out from underneath your tush. And take a minute and breathe here. And big breath in, big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, you're going to grab your 2 balls that are in a bag or a sack. You could also do it with 1 ball, but I like 2 if you have the option. And you're going to lie on your side and put them in your first hip that we worked on. So we're going to find that ASIS or that hip point, and then you're going to walk your fingers back and it's going to go in here. Not down on the leg bone, but up in the hip. And if you get up to stand to get your balls and your props together, take a minute and just feel, what does your butt feel like? I feel like I've got lots more room to walk. All right, so when you're ready, have a lie down on your side with those balls in your side hip. Something like this, give or take. And again, we want to look for interesting, but not excruciating. And once you find where you want to be, take a minute, and you probably still have a fair amount of sensation happening around your sitting bones. So I want you to keep using that sensation just as an awareness of where your breath is going. And we're going to think about the sitting bones widening and relaxing. Coming back to that jellyfish breath. It's not just up here. It's all the way down. We're going to rock our bodies a little forward and a little back, only if that feels good or interesting. Big breath in, big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, we're going to do a little bit of external rotation. Tick, 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 with that top leg to bring that foot to the mat. And then we're going to keep thinking about dropping back through the hip to rotate back a little further. Now for me, my balls are no longer very interesting when I rotate back because I started them pretty forward. So I'm going to make a ball adjustment. You feel free, adjust as needed. But we're going to think about that top hip dropping back versus the top hip pushing forward and then rotating. You can see there's no hip crease here. I'm going to drop that, and now there's some crease in my pants. Little crease in my pants. So we're going to rock back a little and forward a little. This leg bone is pulling back and forward and pulling back and forward and pulling back. And keep your pull back and take a big breath in and a big breath out. And then that bottom knee is going to lift. The foot will stay where it is, but the bottom knee is going to lift up. Only if that works for you. And a little lift and a little lower. And a little left and a little lower. And a little left and a little lower. And a little left and lower. And then take a big breath in and a big breath out. Settle a little deeper into that. Take your top leg, bring it on top of your bottom. Big breath in, big breath out. You're going to take the balls out from underneath your hip. Take a minute here. Maybe a little rock forward, a little rock back. Big breath in, big breath out. Whenever you feel ready, we're going to do the other side. I'm going to rotate all the way over this way. You, of course, can just roll over if you want to. And we're going to place it somewhere in that side hip, not down on the leg bone, but pretty high up towards your hip crest. Oh, it's always interesting. And then breathe. Big breath in, big breath out. You could rock a little forward, a little back. Keep playing with this idea of like, where's my breath? Have really easy access to move. And where do I have to direct it a little bit more? For me, it's always finding more breath in my back. Big breath in, big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, we're going to externally rotate that top leg and put the foot on the mat. And then instead of pushing forward with the crotch, we're going to pull back with the crotch and we're going to rotate. A little forward, a little back. And again, Feel free to move the balls at any time. Oh, big inhale, big exhale. Big breath in. Big breath in. Go ahead and drop the weight back. Keep that hip weighted, and then the bottom knee is going to lift, maybe. And then it's going to lower. And big inhale, big exhale. We're going to do 3 more. And 2. And 1. And then take the top leg. Bring it down. Take a minute. Big inhale, big exhale. We're going to move the balls. Take a minute here. Big breath in, big breath out. Lola's dreaming in the corner and she's woofing like really, really lightly. Super cute. 1 more big breath in, big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, you're going to come on up to sit. All right. Take 1 ball out. You're going to sit on your mat. And I'm going to give you kind of options here. The most interesting version of this is to sit on the mat with your hands behind you and bring an ankle to a knee and take your ball and place it on the outside of your sitting bone, right? We did the inside, here's the outside. Getting right on top of it. Whoa, fall off my mat. And then rock your body a little bit towards the ball. And then you can pull your knee in and press your knee away. You can also play with the rock. Now, if this is too interesting or it doesn't feel good on your knees to bring them up this close, you can come down onto your elbows. You can also lie all the way down on your back. You're just going to have to rotate a little bit deeper into the hip to get a good amount of pressure. So it's totally up to you. None of them are better than the others. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to need something a little bit different. So a little bit on the outside of that sitting bone. And maybe here's my sitting bone. And then I'm going to move up just a smidge. And that for me is where it's interesting. So you can play with it. And then you're going to drop and rotate towards the ball and away from the ball in any of the variations that I showed. So we'll play with that rock here. Breathing, breathing. Now stay in the rock. Keep as much pressure here as you can. And you're going to pull your knee in towards your chest and then away from your chest. So we're back into internal rotation and external rotation. And breathing here. 3 and 2 and 1. And then pause. And wherever the angle is that's calling your name, maybe it's in, maybe it's out, maybe it's deep in a rock, maybe it's not. You're going to breathe here for 3 big breaths. Again, breathing down through your sitting bones. Last one like that. And then go ahead, unwind the legs, take your butt off that ball. Maybe take a minute here, unweight your wrists if they were feeling funky. And then we're gonna go other side. Ankle to knee, outside of the sitting bone, and then maybe travel up just a smidge. You're just gonna hit more muscle tissue instead of bone. And then stay here and play with your rock. Again, you could be on your elbows, you can be on your back. Little rotation, little rotation. Big breath in, big breath out. One more big inhale, big exhale. We're going to keep the weight of the rotation, and you're going to pull your thigh bone in towards the midline and away. So we go internal rotation and external rotation. And a little here. Breathing, breathing. Trying to keep that breath moving all the way down through your sitting bones. And then hold an angle that's interesting for you. And take 3 breaths there. The last one. And then whenever you feel ready, we're going to come out of that. Grab that ball. Maybe take a minute. Check in with your butt. Now we're going to use both balls, but out of the bag. You're going to have a lie down on your back. It's our last butt spot. And then we're going to move into the shoulders. Yay! Okay. So we're going to go, I'm going to show you my butt. So right here is your sacrum. I want you to play with putting your balls at first, at least, here. So it's just to the outside of the sacrum. It's not down in the wings. We've already spent a fair amount of time there. And listen, if your butt, once you get down there, your butt's like, I want to do that, then do that. But humor me and start on the wings of your pelvis on either side of your sacrum. So it might be a little higher than what you're used to doing. The idea is that the balls are going to create a hammock sensation for your sacrum. So if they're down really low, they're going to deal more with glute tension, which is fine, but just humor me and start with this little sling for your sacrum, okay? So I'm finding my sacrum with the balls, and then I'm just moving the balls a little bit wider. And I'm kind of pulling my butt flesh with it, just sort of tractioning it a little. And I'm just trying to get a little bit more hang time for my sacrum. And then toe heel your feet about as wide as your mat and allow your knees to drop together. So we're back in internal rotation, which is going to ask for wider sitting bones. And then we're going to breathe here. Big inhale, big exhale. And so just as I'm sitting here, I notice my right hip wants to kind of push out to the side. And that's my habit. That's not news to me, but I'm going to try to limit how much of it it's pushing out to the side. So I just arranged my balls a little differently to help me keep more weight through my hip. So that way I really do have to work this internal rotation for my right side. Big breath in, big breath out. Whenever you feel ready, we're going to let the knees drop apart. We're going to let the knees drop together. Again, it's just rotation. We're moving the femur in the socket while we compress around the tissues that participate in that. Big inhale, big exhale. And then let's let the knees drop together. They're going to stay together. And we're going to drag the pubic bone towards the sternum a little bit and then release it. And a little drag and a little release. And a little drag and a little release. And a little drag and a little release. And then pause in that release and take a big breath in, big breath out. We're going to lift the right hip towards the right rib. So it's a hike, not a rotation. And then we're going to switch it. I'm going to hike the other side and lengthen that first side. And then switch. And then you just might notice like, oh, lengthening this side feels like a really good stretch. Maybe you want to take some breaths there. Or maybe moving through it feels good. And I'm trying to sort of imagine that my knees are sliding forward and back as opposed to side, give or take. You know, it all depends on like how tight shit is in there. So it's not about it being perfect, right? Big breath in. We're all trying to move the needle just a little bit from where we are. Big inhale, big exhale. One more, maybe staying in the breath or breathing in a rotation or an angle that feels good, feels like work, maybe stretchy. Big inhale, big exhale. And then whenever you feel ready, we're going to toe heel those feet back together in line with your sitting bones. And I want you to press down into the floor with your feet. Pull your heels towards your butt a little. Drag your pubic bone towards your sternum just a little. So we're creating length here. And take a big breath in and a big breath out. And then nice and slow, we're going to press down into the feet to lift the butt off of those balls. Take a pause at the top. Inhale. Exhale, nice and slow. Lower all the way down to the floor. Take a minute here. Breathe into this space. Big breath in, big breath out. One more big inhale and exhale. All right, whenever you feel ready, you're going to take your balls and they can go back in the bag if you want. They don't have to. We're going to do the shoulders with the balls rolling down the back. So I like to use the bag just because the balls tend to run away from me. So this is my attempt at just keeping things a little more concise, but they can certainly be separate. So we're going to take the two balls and I want you just to bring your fingers to the back of your skull, to right where the top of your cervical spine is, it inserts into your skull. And you're going to walk your fingers down your cervical spine. And at the end of the cervical spine is the biggest cervical spine. And it's right at your upper traps. And that's where the ball is going to go. It's going to go just below that big, thumpy, lumpy C7. And then once you've got those balls kind of wedged just in the very tops of your upper traps, lower your head down. And then shimmy up the balls the tiniest bit, guys. It's just that we're getting some meaty real estate around the balls, okay? It shouldn't be too interesting. Maybe if you lift your shoulders up towards your ears and then down and around, you get a little scrub in there. So let's take a couple of those, just like shoulder rolls. Breathing, breathing. And then take a big breath in and a big breath out. And now we're going to actually like get into like the funk. So you're going to press into your feet. Drag your pubic bone towards your sternum, pull your butt towards your heels. This just helps us to keep our pelvis secure that we just rolled out so good. And we're going to lift the butt up a little, and then we're going to scooch up the balls until you're just at kind of the top of your shoulder blade, like just the inside part of it. And really it's just like interesting spot number one. Whatever sort of like the first spot you hit that's mildly interesting. And lower your butt down. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. Float your arms up, fingertips to the sky. This should be interesting. We're going to let those arms weight real heavy into the floor and reach the arms overhead. That's really freaking interesting for me. Take the arms out to the side, down to your butt, and then back up through center. And take a big breath in, big breath out. We're going to do that again. Now, my arm circles are moderately large, but if this is super interesting for you, they could be very, very small. And there's definitely a spot further down my back where like my circles are almost imperceptible to anyone but me. Reach those arms overhead, slide them down and around. One more here, inhale, exhale. When you get up to the top, fingertips up towards the ceiling, pause, and just notice, did your shoulders pull away from those balls? Can you sink them a little bit deeper around the ball? Create a little bit more slack. And then you're going to press into your feet, pull your heels towards your butt, pull your pubic bone towards your sternum, lift your tushy, and then scooch up the balls a little bit. And hands can go wherever you want, whatever helps you to get to that next spot. We're going to go down. So now we're kind of like maybe a quarter of the way down the shoulder blade. The balls are traveling between the shoulder blade and the spine. And then we're going to float the arms back up. And then weight the shoulders down and around the balls. Take a big inhale, big exhale. We take some circles. Oh, God. Ew. Hello. Now, you're probably not watching me. You don't have to watch me. But if you are, you'll notice my circles got a hell of a lot smaller. Big breath in and big breath out. And if you hear some cricky cracky or some thumpy bumpies back there, it's okay. If it's just sound, if it's causing acute pain, find a different spot. Big breath in, big breath out, but it's totally normal for it to be thumpy bumpy. Let's reverse our circle. Big breath in, big breath out. Big inhale, big exhale. Bring those fingertips up to the top. Take a minute and check in. Are your shoulders weighted towards the floor or are they pulling up towards the ceiling? Take a big inhale, big exhale. Find your supportive bridge. So a little heel pull, a little pubic bone pull, a little press up, and then wiggle your way down. Or sorry, you're going up the mat. The balls are sliding down. So now we're headed, woo, a little further down that channel between the shoulder blades and the spine. And again, we got circles. And breathing. Check in with that shoulder weight. And maybe you get like to a certain spot and you're like, I fucking hate this and I don't want to do it anymore. Then don't. Or go back up where it still felt like work, but not misery. Okay? Don't make it terrible for yourself. Only if it feels good, interesting. Reverse your circle. Big inhale, big exhale. Breathing, breathing, breathing. Ah. Big inhale, big exhale. We're going to do one last spot if you want to, or you can travel back up. So, little lift, little scooch. So for me, I'm kind of at the bottom of my scapula here. Floating those arms up, fingertips to the sky, shoulders weighted back. Big inhale, big exhale, circles. How weighted can you get into the floor? Back of the skull, the back of the ribs, the back of the sacrum, soles of the feet. Reverse your circle. Big breath in, big breath out. Oh. One more big breath in, big breath out. And then we're going to do a long, slow drag back up the shoulders. So, you know, if someone comes behind you and kind of like lifts your shoulders up, giving you like a little shoulder rub, they're kind of, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to lift the upper traps up with the slack, all that muscle slack that we just hopefully built in. So I'm not doing a bridge. I'm doing like a little caterpillar so that I get maximum shoulder weight into my balls to help me drag the balls up until I'm back at kind of that starting position. And if you put your fingers on your upper traps on your shoulders, they should feel like they're kind of like being pulled up and feel a little muscly and slacky and chunky monkey. And then big breath in, big breath out. Maybe a little shrug of those shoulders again. Just see how that might feel different or interesting. And float the arms up, fingertips to the sky, weight the shoulders towards the floor. We're going to take the arms overhead, down and around. Again, just some nice circles here. Big inhale, big exhale. Let's reverse that circle. Ooh. Big breath in. Big breath out. Last one. And then bring the balls out from under your shoulders and grab your yoga brick. Boop. Place the yoga brick under your head and then place the balls on top of your yoga brick. And then place your occipital ridge or that bony ridge at the base of your skull up on top of the balls. And then, you know, you can make some decisions here about what feels good. It might feel really good to have it really like sucked right up underneath the occipital ridge. It might feel nice to go a little lower. And it really just depends on how things are feeling in your body, how your shoulders. You could try a little bit of both. And take a big breath in and a big breath out. And first we're going to lift the chin up so the skull goes over and around the balls. See if you can get a little heavier into the balls. And then nod your chin downward. And we're almost imagining that the balls are kind of plowing through the tissue. And again, I don't expect you to be looking at me, but if you were, you would see that my chin nods are very frickin' tiny. A little lower, a little left. When you lift the chin, take a minute and see if you can get a little heavier into the balls. Drop that chin down. Little lift. A little lower. Big inhale. And exhale. And then maybe shift just a little bit into the right or the left and just see. That's more interesting, less interesting. Shift ever so slightly into the left. Same. And then maybe decide if one of those sides needs a little bit more love. I'm going to head over to my right side and do some tiny little circles here with my head. It's as if my nose were drawing tiny little circles on the ceiling. And then reversing that circle. Big breath in, big breath out. And then over to the other side. Little teeny tiny circles. Reversing if you haven't already. And then back to center. Little nod. Yes. Big breath in, big breath out. One more big inhale. Exhale. Take the balls out from underneath your head. Support your head with your hand. Move the yoga brick out of the way. Keep supporting your skull and lower it all the way down to the mat. And then take a minute here on the mat. Maybe some nodding yes, some nodding no, maybe some little circles. Big inhale, big exhale. Maybe a little tuck and untuck of your pelvis. A little hike and unhike. Big breath in, big breath out. Feeling that weight and grounding through the back of the skull and the back of the ribs and the back of the sacrum and the soles of your feet. Big breath in, big breath out. One more here, inhale. Exhale. And you guys are cooked for rolling out. Happy Monday. Thanks for rolling out your butts with me. I know some of you guys are coming to the next class, so